Shaun, I mean, obviously I would expect you to say people should go goNorth, but are there any events that you think are valuable, and maybe not just for musicians, but also for managers that are wanting to promote or sell the music by the bands they're working with? I mean, looking at it from a business context, are there any kind of small or niche events that are really worth the money or worth going to?
I think it's horses for courses. It depends what genre you're working in. I mean, as Hale this year, we've helped bands and acts go to Folk Alliance in Memphis. Yeah, the duplets went over there. It's tailor-made for that traditional market, and it's worked really well for them. They've come back with getting some extra shows in the States, getting some interest for getting their albums licensed. And I think you've got to look at, there are so many of these type of events. Yeah, you could spend your whole life in a year going around every one of them. That's what you do,
Shaun, isn't it?
No, not quite. But I've been, like Allan, I've been to probably most of them. And there are some great events, but I think, again, you've got to tailor-make what you're trying to achieve and what genre you're trying to achieve, and look at all these different events and see which one's going to work for you. And again, you're just touching on South by Southwest, because as Hale, we've worked with a lot of acts going out to South by Southwest. You really, really have to get your plan together before going out to an event like that. Yeah, as you were saying, I've taken a band out there when I was working in Northern Ireland, and we ended up playing in a corridor between two venues, which was just set up with a PA, and turning up and finding that there wasn't a backline provided. Yeah, and that's because originally we didn't do our homework, we didn't figure out, and you've got to be so careful. I mean, it's such a big machine. And also the other thing that is a real bugbear about South by Southwest for me is the visa situation. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, for us, especially in the Highlands and Islands, one of our lunar activities, based in the Western Isles, when they played goNorth, it cost more to get the visas than it did to get over.
South by Southwest, not goNorth.
Oh, sorry, play South by Southwest. Yeah, because it's still expensive a flight from Stornoway nowadays.
Yeah.
But to play South by Southwest, it was actually cost us more to get the visas than it did to actually get the band over to play their showcase at South by Southwest, because of the distance they had to travel down to London, stay overnight before the visa visit, actually attend the visa visit of when they have to hand their passports over, so they can't fly back. So we have to put them on a train and then get them over to a ferry to get them back to Stornoway. And
then DHL lost the package as well, didn't it?
And then DLS.
Oh, no, that was the other lot.
Oh, no, sorry, yeah.
Christ,
You're
plagued by this stuff, aren't you, Shaun? I mean, it's the thing is, though, what would you say would be worth doing? I mean, are there any things where you've gone and you're just like, this is perfect, the bands are properly looked after, the promotion's good, the support's good, and the right people are actually going to
Eurosonics, again, is a very well run event. It's brilliant. And I still quite like in the city and Unconvention together as it was last year. I thought that worked very well. One event I haven't been to, which I've heard is pretty good, is Liverpool Sound City. I mean, there are the events there within reach, within not having to spend lots of money on flights, and of course goNorth.
Allan, you're a bit of a sort of Eurosonic veteran. What do they actually offer that's so good? What makes it so special?
Well, it's containable for a start. The city takes place in Groningen. You can't really outgrow the city. And in fact, I remember saying to them a little while ago, you're not going to do what South by Southwest did and become too big. And they said, no, we can't grow bigger. We can only grow better. And they seem to have a very good take on that. They limit the number of acts they have. And they also have other projects which stem from that. You can go and do a showcase at Eurosonic, and you are likely to get results. There's a further project which they do called ETAP. Anybody know about ETAP? European Talent Exchange Program, whereby they work with Europe, which is the festivals organisation for Europe, and 55, 60 of the major festivals belong to this organisation. They also work with the European Broadcasting Union. Whereas if you were picked up to go on to this programme, which is, they send people from the festivals or whatever, they like this act, they like that act, you can then be guaranteed places on European festivals throughout the year. The festivals actually get paid a small amount to take some of these acts on the festivals. The aim being, as they used to say, is to break borders, is to actually have a movement of acts within Europe. Their original idea was to kill off the Anglo-American stranglehold, but they've not managed to do it because basically you can't, the talent is still coming out of UK and the USA, but there's a lot more acts from Europe. So what they've done is opened up potential in lots of areas in Europe, and any one of you now could, if you go and break in Germany, why not go and break in Germany? Enjoy actually playing there. The potential to do that does come out of playing at Eurosonic.
I think this is a really interesting point, because what you're saying here is that it's not just about actually going at the event, it's like what the event can offer you afterwards. So if you take part in the ZTAP program at Eurosonic, what it's offering you is a whole load of festival dates afterwards. It's not a kind of, maybe this person's going to come and see me if I'm really lucky.
You get radio coverage with it as well. When each festival day, you get radio coverage in each country.
Shaun, you've started doing that as well, didn't you? I mean, in the past there was the goNorth stage at Rock Nest, but now there's you're pretty much guaranteed a Scottish festival slot if you play at goNorth.
Yeah, I mean, for the past 5 years since we moved to Inverness as part of the Year of Highland Culture, and when Rock Nest started, we've had a stage at Rock Nest. This has all changed this year as, I think, especially for goNorth, it was something that we wanted to get back to our roots a bit, as Rock Nest is now quite a big machine with AEG, and it's something that we wanted to get back and affinity with the independent promoters and festivals. So this year, we've got the goNorth Festival Tour, which is taking in 5 festivals, which is Loopaloo, Wizard, Belladrum, Summer in the City, which is in the centre of Inverness, and Wicker Man. And this year, as opposed to last year, because we didn't, even though we had the stage at Rock Nest, every band that played Rock Nest, we couldn't guarantee, goNorth couldn't guarantee them a show at Rock Nest. This year, every band that gets chosen for goNorth, and even some of those that don't get chosen for goNorth, will get the chance to play at either one or more of the 5 festivals that we're involved in.
Are any of you aware of other events that will offer you this on top, where it's pretty much a guarantee that if you go and do the event, something is going to come out of it as a result?
Well, there is an attempt at this with Brighton Live. Again, does anybody know about Brighton Live? This is the smaller event which should have been set up many years ago and should not have allowed Londoners to come in and take over the things in Brighton. In fact, I would have allowed Shaun in. Shaun and I talked about doing something in Brighton years ago called Go South. But anyway, Great Escape moved in. But the Brighton business itself has a smaller event in October and is now beginning to invite people from other cities. And the idea I've put to them is that we should be doing swaps with other cities. So there should be some trade-off between bands. You do well in, if you're a band that does well in Birmingham, come to Brighton and meet a Brighton band. And the idea is to twin bands, just exchange them so they can go and work with bands in other cities and gradually build up from there. So you're just opening up the network earlier than the band itself might have managed. There are other events which do extremely well like that, but not necessarily for UK acts. The Spot Festival in Denmark is a great setup. Danish music is really well supported, and they set up in order to they started bringing in other Scandinavian countries, and they're doing trade-offs with other Scandinavian countries, moving the acts around. But gradually, they're talking about bringing in some other acts. Bailam,
yeah,
well, you know a lot about Bailam.
So I was just going to say that Spot's an excellent festival event, but the problem is that it's just that Scandinavian. They don't have any other acts coming in.
I would say that's about Bailam as well. It's just Scandinavian bands, but that's not just Scandinavian industry though. So if you're not a band and you're a manager or you're a promoter, I would go to Bailam and to network with other, even if it's just network with other British industry there.
I think this is a really good point, because I mean what you've got with a lot of events is that people, I mean, I find this risible, but the one time I did go over South by Southwest, and I don't want to knock it because I had a fantastic time. It was great. The weather was nice. Hung out. All the gigs are really close to each other. But I mean, from a business perspective, you know, there's so many people there. Whereas going to something like Bailam in Oslo, and I mean, the downside is it's really, really cold. I mean, my beard froze this year. It was -20. And at the same time, a lot of these small ones that are in kind of far-flung places, they'll bring in really, really good speakers that you don't get elsewhere, because they're very often well-funded. So you end up sitting on a bus next to the Glastonbury booker, who was actually meant to be doing this as well, but he slipped in another cold country and broke 3 ribs. But that's a sort of example. You would have been here if you hadn't broken 3 ribs, but that just came about through us being at a small event in Finland. And I think that, you know, you can go somewhere as a manager and you can meet every, say, Bailam, you can meet every booking agent, every promoter in Scandinavia, they all go. And then you can meet all the British ones and a whole lot of European, continental European ones that are going to be there too.
I think one thing we didn't really talk about was the history of these events and how they started. We're slagging South by Southwest off for becoming such a monster. I've done 18 South by Southwest. My son was there this year producing a showcase. He's 28. I took him there when he was 10. The first time round. I used to love it. Roots music, whenever I saw John Lee Hooker play a club, first time I was there. And it happened because the people in Austin had a great music set up for themselves. So many musicians in Austin, it was unbelievable, but they were like, you know, big fish in a small pond. They weren't getting out at all. The original idea behind South by Southwest was to invite people from Memphis, Nashville, and New Orleans to come to Austin with a view of beginning to exchange acts, somewhat like I'm saying with Brighton Live, etc. And then gradually some internationals came in. So it started with the best of principles, as in fact did Noorderslag Eurosonic. Noorderslag was only for Dutch bands, and they started allowing Belgian bands in. Then a few other people came in, and it grew organically. And these things have grown organically, which is very laudable. The fact is, we do seem to need them, and we've allowed them to become these monstrous things. So we have to go back to the beginning. So the principle is always the same. But in terms of making them into money-making situations, how long do you keep it small? You know, how long do you stop making money, or when do you start making money? The events are, you know, they're capitalistic businesses.